want the world to know that I'm putting up an art exhibition in a pandemic.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Whatever you want, I do it for you. You want the sky, I made it blue for you.
I want a cinematic love. Kisses with an underscore, arms wrapped around tight, under a wash of amber light, or a kiss in the cool of midnight blue. Anything I would do for you, and all your gifts I would receive. Holding hands on set and the stars, I'd bet that your love is all I need. Waking up picture perfect with the man of my dreams. Breakfast in bed or a bit of you instead to get my day going. While the cameras are rolling, capturing our truth, our youth, our love unglued and exposed for the world to see. I breathe you, a soundtrack to track each step we step, a journey unmatched, an adventure you are. And on screen, whether blue or green, I color my passion in every frame. I want to be insane, crazy for your touch, under fire, under sultry smoke, billowing from clouds hung low, heartstrings pulled as you guide me in close. The music begins soft and slow, and I meet you with my lips. I smile while we kiss, my eyes shut and I let go. A love made for the movies, this I want to know. Because your love is red, my heart was blue, then you came along, it melted for you.
Power to the Peaceful, Crystal C. Mercer here. Happy to take you on a gallery walk through my new solo exhibition, Threading Through Pan African Textiles and the Story They Tell. We're in Conway, Arkansas at UCA downtown, and this is sponsored by UCA Outreach, so I want to give a big thank you and shout out to them. And then I want to tell you all these wonderful stories about everything that I made. You can follow me online at CCMercer2, that's T-O-O, and you can go to my website, crystalcmercer.com, for more information. But we're just gonna start right here and then work our way around to all the pieces, and we'll see how the spirit moves. I first did this show in Accra, Ghana, 2 days before I left the country. So it's December of 2018 at the Studio Accra. And I have to thank Francis and everybody there, Sale, the Nubuke Foundation, everybody who helped make this possible, because I was going crazy, much like I am now, to make it all happen. But this is my first solo show in the States. And I have a combination of garments and what I'm calling textile renderings. Like a rendering is a drawing, but I'm doing it with fabric that I stitch all by hand. So you see this what I made it with, in some needle and thread, like gangsta old school, making in real time gestation of a garment. So this is a piece that I made. I got the fabric from WA, Ghana, on a trip that the Nubuke Foundation sponsored to research about fabric and woven textiles. And as I understand it, we were trying to reimagine kente, but kente is not the only traditional African cloth. There's raffia, there's mud cloth, there's togu, there's fugu, there's dagawaze, which is what this is, and different traditional ways of weaving and dyeing that are associated with a country or a region or a tribe that's, unique and signature to their culture. So this is some of the fabric that I bought. And I actually, when I bought it, I sliced them together when it was just in its bundle. And one of my friends asked me what I was gonna do with it. And I said, I think I need to make a jacket. I'm going back to America. It's gonna be cold in December. And so this was the second of 2 jackets that I made. It took me 26 hours to stitch by hand. I don't know if you can see this here, this hem stitch. This right here, I did all by hand, this whip stitch, like every single stitch by hand. And then I did on the side what you call a slip stitch. It gives you like an invisible backing so you don't see any of the stitching, which I like exposed stitching, which is why I hem this in this way, but it just gives it a sleeker look. This next piece I'm super excited about, because this is how I look like 25% of my life when my afro is not out. I have afro puffs or some type of configuration of this. But this is one of the pages that's going to be in my new children's book, From Cotton to Silk, The Magic of Black Hair, because we know how magical that is. And when I saw her, in my mind, it was so beautiful. Like, I just stitched this. This is 2020, y'all. Y'all getting some like fresh, hot off the press, hot off the thread work right here. When I made this, I showed it to my nieces, which the story is based about them and an ode to cultural beauty and them just accepting themselves the way that they are. My oldest niece, Claudia, saw, and she's like, Auntie Cece, that's you. And I'm like, it could be anybody, I guess, but she got it immediately, and she's 5. And you know, that's my audience because it's a children's book. So I was very happy about that. But this piece took about 12 hours from the piecing, which is actually cutting the cloth, which is a little different than kind of putting the garment together. All of these shapes, all of that I had to cut, to the actual stitching. And this, we have these hem stitches. I like this lavender thread. I like exposed thread, you know, and then this right here is kind of turquoise in between, in the puff. And this print reminded me of like buildings in New York City, and that's where they live, in New York. So I felt like it was an ode to them. They love bows. Green is my favorite color. So it's abstract, but it's realistic in a way too. I'm always wearing hoops, so maybe it is me. Maybe Claudia was on to something. This next piece is the central image to the show, as it was when it was in Ghana, but it's really special to me because this is the first piece that I stitched when I moved to Accra in Ghana. So this piece is from 2008. It's called Akwaba, which is a Twi word, one of the national languages in Ghana, and it means welcome. So everywhere you go, everyone's like, Akwaba, auntie, sister, mommy, Akwaba. And so I thought it was very important to include the word as far as naming the piece, but then I got a little stitch happy and I stitched these. And each of these letters took about 5 or 6 hours to do, just the letters, because I whip stitched all the way around and then I tacked them down. And then I did all of the stitching here from Arkansas to Accra because that was a part of my journey. And something that's very special about this piece, so you'll notice that the hair is made of wax fabric, which people know them as traditional African prints, but it's like Dutch wax fabric. So it was made and designed by European markets that found a footing in African markets at a certain time, and it just became very popular. But using like traditional symbols and colors and all of those things. So when I first moved to Ghana, my host family, who is very spiritual and religious and so beautiful, just shout out to the Bentleys for hosting me for a year in Ghana. I wasn't sure, because I'm not a church girl. I grew up in church, but I'm more spiritual than like deeply religious. And something that I've blossomed into as I've come into my womanhood. But I was really nervous about wearing my hair out at church. And it wasn't a Muslim church, it was a Christian church, even though there are a lot of Muslims in Ghana. I just was feeling self-conscious about how I should dress or being appropriate going, you know, into someone's house of worship. So this fabric, I actually like tied my hair down and I wrapped my hair when I went to church. And it was like 500 people at church. It was so many people in the building. I felt like, dang, this is my first time in the country. This is my first outing. It was a Sunday. I got to Ghana on a Friday. And I met all of these people and they didn't see me in the way that I was. And so from that moment, when I started working on this piece, I said, I don't want to cover myself again. I just want to be able to be uncloaked and available and free in who I am. So I felt it was important to use that same cloth that I covered my head with to make for my hair in this piece. And these are all just leftover things that were in the house. I had 2 nieces in the house. They're so sweet, and we used to go on walks around the neighborhood, and the youngest of the 2 found this stone for me, and I have stone in my hair. So, you know, the locks are matching this, and this was just like seeing myself in a new country, in a new place, and being able to materialize that in the cloth. Yeah, so the word Akwaba means welcome in Twi, which is one of the national languages in Ghana. And everywhere I went, everyone was saying Akwaba. I mean, all the time. I lived there 7 months. That's what they were saying. So I felt it was important to use this lettering. And this just came from some scrap fabric, but you see that whip stitching? I did all of this by hand. This piece took 168 hours to stitch. And it was more than like the straight stitching. I had the whip stitching of the lettering. I had these like details that I was adding across in the bodice. I stitched my name in the bottom. Of course, where I was from and where I was at that time. Just some of all of the little details. I made these earrings out of grommets and went through and whip stitched all of that. This piece here, when I first moved there, I was self-conscious about visiting a church and how to dress and be appropriate. And so I covered my hair with this exact cloth. And it's just wax fabric. I covered my hair with this cloth. And I just did not want to be contained or covered. So this next piece I did just last year when I moved back to the States. Mud cloth, the process, so this is mud cloth, right? So you see all this is painted on. It's used with natural dyes. It's much like kente or other fabrics where you loom and weave by hand in strips, and then the strips are just hand stitched together. So if you see this here, all of that was put together. And I bought it as one piece. So I took the one piece and I undid the stitching in half, and then I took those halves and I made this garment. And I just used a slip stitch and then this hem stitch with this turquoise thread because it just gives it a little pop, you know? Get a little flare there. And I added this pocket, and once I did that, this is also mud cloth, but it's a different design. It has cowries. I'm also very obsessed with cowries, obviously, because this was a form of currency, and the CD, a sign of wealth. So people who wear a lot of cowries, it's like very royal and regal and steeped into the original currency. So this was a piece that I love too. But once I put the pocket on this one side, I was like, that's kind of fly. It looks like a bag. So this is also mud cloth. It's just been dyed black and then painted white with this cowrie design here. And when I did it, it's a pyramid pocket. So it's not a traditional shaped pocket. But I was like, oh, this looks like a bag. That's kind of a boss. And I also I usually like finished edges, but I liked how this ended here on the weave. And it looked intentional, almost like, you know, some type of fringe instead of fray. So I kept that as well. And so this has just been one of my favorite pieces. And I wanted to make it into a jacket, or if it was a curtain or a pillow or anything, but something where it just wasn't folded up, because fabric tells a story. Like the way this is made, that you weave it together and then you stitch it together, then you paint it with dyes made from the earth. The way that is made, you take the thread and you plot out a design, and then you weave it together and you sell the cloth. I wanted this cloth, much like all of these things, to still live and not just be in a box, in a drawer. Like I wanted it to have the life that it was supposed to have, where you can display with pride who you are. So once I did this, this is a jacket that I wear often in interviews, for photographs. It's living in the exhibition now, but this is one of my favorite pieces that I've ever made. And this took about 12 hours because all I did was the slip stitch and the hem stitch. So now we're moving on to more of the book, which is deeply a part of these Pan African textiles, but putting in some of my Southern heritage into the story. This piece right here, which is actually, I've given 4 people the exclusive, but you on candid camera now, everybody's gonna know. This is actually the image that's going to be the cover of my children's book, formatted for the cover, From Cotton to Silk, The Magic of Black Hair. And then these are my nieces, Claudia and Bianca, but I use their middle names in the book, Giselle and Elise, as a part of the story. So this piece right here is the perfect combination of African American with the gingham, and actually literally cotton and silk, which was totally by accident, but that's how the universe works. It's telling you you're on the right path. So this piece here is it's called Haitian Apples, because that's also a part of my niece's lineage. My sister-in-law is a first-generation Haitian. Her parents grew up in Haiti, and she was born in Queens. Her and my brother met in college at Amherst College in Amherst, Massachusetts, and fell in love and been together ever since, and they've given me the loves of my life, my beautiful nieces. But this is a reimagining of the Haitian flag. So if you Haitian, you know, sac passe, you know it's up, right? It's the blue block on the top, red in the bottom, and then all the things in the center. But I decided to center my nieces, and I placed them inside of this wax fabric that came from Ghana from my friend Michelle Cole, who went for the year of the return in 2019, and she brought me back beautiful fabric that I'm using in the book. So this is wax fabric from Ghana. This is quilted fabric. I have the blue and red, but I've used gingham to represent the American South because my brother and I are from Arkansas. And then the arrangement of it to represent the Haitian flag because my sister-in-law is Haitian. Her parents grew up in Haiti. They speak, you know, Haitian Creole. It's a part of, you know, English is a second language. And then inserting the girls, the perfect combination between the two of them inside of the Big Apple because they're from New York. I also have these vintage buttons from America Jane Vintage right here in Conway, who donated the buttons to this project from Cotton to Silk that are from the 1940s. And then of course I'm using leather, vinyl, all of this stitching right here. This is straight stitching around, and you can see I use different colors to make it pop. The denim jean thread, the gold here. I've also incorporated that gingham in their lips. The pearls, because Bianca did get pearls from her godfather, her payen. Payen is godfather in Haitian. I'm her ninin, her godmother. And so I thought it was just like sweet and cute and innocent for little girls. These are vintage buttons from actually right here in Conway from America Jane Vintage, which is like right around the corner from UCA downtown. I have to thank them because they donated all of the vintage buttons that I'm using for eyes in the book, and it's just been like a dream. These buttons are from the 40s. You can't go to Walmart and get these buttons. Like, it's just not possible. But I put them inside of this Big Apple because they live in the Big Apple. And then, of course, inside of the Haitian flag, and using the gingham because I feel like gingham, linen, seersucker is so American South. Like, that's just like you from the South if you got gingham on the picnic table and you're wearing overalls and you're sitting on the porch sipping lemonade. So it's like the perfect combination of my brother and their mother and their journey in New York. I could go on and on about them, so I'm gonna move on, but Claudia and Bianca is the light of my world. And then this piece, I just finished yesterday. So I'm really excited that I did because it's been taking me forever. Like, it's so much work. It's so much work. It's beautiful work, but like, I love sitting there and stitching and being quiet, but like from this to cutting this to piecing this to pinning it down to stitching it, it's like such a process. And this piece took about 14 hours from top to bottom. And I didn't frame it because I like odd, weird things like this. So this is the bottom of the wax print, and it'll tell you, you know, wax block print, whatever company it's from, and like a number so you can find it. This was so interesting to me, I didn't want to cover it or hem it, so I left it as is. But this one's called Auntie Comes to Town because I am the ultimate auntie to my nieces. They love everything about me, I love everything about them. And this is one of the pages in the book, in the story where, you know, Auntie Cece visits from Arkansas and comes to New York, and everyone's so excited. Again, I've used the pearls, which there are other earrings, but this is like so sweet and innocent, and earrings that they can wear all the time. My signature hoops, my pen, Black Glow Matters, because it does. Here that I've included because I'm always wearing something to add to what I'm wearing. Some halter, some jumpsuit, like that's pretty much life. A jumpsuit ain't nothing but an overall. And again, there's the wax fabric. So this is a wax print. This is a wax print here that I've used in the bows. These vintage buttons. This is a wax print too from the eyebrows, which just came, if you remember, from the Haitian apples here. This green right here, I'm making all of the eyebrows out of. So this part of the fabric, I'm just taking those remnants and making eyebrows, and I'm using the vinyl and the leather for the skin, for the eyelashes, things like that. But this is just fun. It's like, you know it's me because my afro, my hoops, you know it's them because we're together and we're happy, and it's just a pivotal moment in the book before things turn, as every story does, and then of course it turns back around. But I love this piece and I just finished it. I have 24 more pieces to stitch. So it's not over, but this is one of my favorites from the book, and friends that I've shared it with, it's one of their favorites too. So now we're gonna move on to the first jacket I ever made in my entire life, with these right here. This is also that Dagowaze from Ghana. And it took me 26 hours to make the first one because it was a little shorter, I had learned. It took me 46 hours to stitch this one. And if you see on the inside, like all of this whip stitching, I used purple thread because I thought that would be fun. You know, no one's ever gonna see this, but I know that like it's something royal. It gives it a different touch. This bold black and gold is so striking. It's so African, and it's so like a part of my life because I graduated from Central High School, so these were also my high school colors. And then these fabrics here are two different fabrics that I stitched together. So it also wasn't as simple as that had two different cloths. This has 3 cloths on it that I've used, and they were all men's cloths, which is something I wanna just address while we're here. So men's cloth is created shorter, or there's less width in a men's cloth because they use it for smocks, making shirts, things of that nature. And women's cloth is wider because they use it for making dresses. So it's not anything to, it's just to denote what garment is gonna be made from the fabric. But it's all out of love and respect. And people can use whatever cloth for whatever thing, but that's just how it's identified when they sell Kente Dagowaze, some of these traditional cloths from Ghana that I found out because is what type of garment you're gonna make from the cloth. So then again, it's like telling that story. So you know if it's this wide and that's it, you're probably gonna be making a men's smock. But if it's wide like the first jacket, you're probably gonna be making a woman's dress. That's how it goes. But this is the first jacket I made. I had a lot of learning curves. I had a lot of holes in my fingers trying to stitch and whip and figure it out, and it's very thick and weighted. And I remember talking to Kofi Seterji, who is a master weaver. He's a painter, he's a sculptor, and he's one of the founders of the Nubuke Foundation, where I worked while I lived in Ghana. And we sat under a tree for 2 hours and talked about weaving. He asked me to look at the brick and like the lines in the container building. And it's like, see, that's a pattern, that's a thread, that's a shape. Trying to imagine what it would look like when you create your design, which goes from the brick or the building or the sky or the tree and how the bark is arranged to how somebody imagines how they would build a cloth. And in the north, it's like very dry, it gets really hot. There's a season called Hamatan, it's like hell hot. People want to wear thick garments that can withstand the wind and the test of time and that are heavy enough to feel regal and last. So that's why they weave it this thick. And people are like, were you hot? I'm like, no, I just wore it like anything else because the wind was blowing and I felt like this was my armor, something that my mentor Kato Mamalu gave me. This was my visual DNA. So when I wore this, number one, you knew I went to the north because this is the only place you can get this fabric. And number two, you knew it was special because no one else had it because I made it by hand. So it's my first jacket and also one of my favorites. And I wore this actually traveling back from Ghana to the United States. This is my travel jacket. And we've been through a lot together. So I'm glad to include it in this part of the exhibit. Moving just behind me, just, you know, pop a squat right here. This pillow, oh my gosh. So I love pillows, I love cushions, I love drapes. I love how fabric can just change a room. And this pillow actually has a little bit of this jacket and a little bit of the first jacket. So you see here on the edge, there's this black and gold Dagowaze, which was just like a scrap from a project I did reimagining the straps on my backpack. And the same on the other side. And then it's this green print, which had all these beautiful colors in it. So I just didn't want to disrupt what was going on there. But the way I make pillows is like I slip stitch them together so the edges are like flush on all sides. Like I don't like the machine stitch across. I like to stitch them together. And I don't put tags or anything because you're gonna lay on it, you're gonna sit on it, you're gonna nap on it, you're gonna like breastfeed your baby on it. Whatever it is you're gonna do, like this pillow is gonna serve a purpose where a tag can't be in the way. You know I made this, who else is making this? So this is a pillow that I made, and I like various sizes, and this was just leftover material that I was happy to let it have another life and do another thing there. Okay, you're gonna have to back up for this one, because this right here is what we call life. Everlasting in the cloth. All right, this, I'm just so amazed. I am standing in front of the first pair of drapes I've ever made. And even numbers kind of freak me out. So like, I like odd numbers because odd numbers, there is a middle number. Even though you split an even number in half, you have two halves and a number in between. Anyway, that's another conversation for another day. But I love odd numbers, so my pair is 3 panels. But this was the first pair of drapes I ever made. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland. It was 2011. I went there for a teaching job at a school, and my windows were bare. It was looking kind of ugly, and I was too cute to be in an apartment with no pizzazz. So I was like, spring break, I'm making some curtains. And that's what I did for the first 3 days of spring break. I mapped this out. I had purchased this fabric on the edge here, this chevron, and then this print, which was just a wax fabric that came from Africa, from the New York Fashion District on a trip to visit my brother and Daphne. This was before the girls were born. And then this piece here, I bought from a man who lived in Baltimore. He was getting rid of things because he was moving to Rio. And he said at the time, he had gotten this in Cairo, Egypt, in the 1970s on a trip that his parents sent him to. And that it was very important that I hung it in a certain way. If you see here, there's a slit here and a slit here. He just had it tacked to the wall, but he said it had some religious significance and that it had to hang a certain way. So when I made the curtains, I kept that in mind when I did that. As life progressed, it became a tablecloth and other things, and one drunken New Year's Eve night, a friend wasted red wine on the curtain that has yet to come out. But I consider this a life stain, and I'm okay with that. I hope one day, either while I'm alive, before I leave this earth, or after I'm gone, it is my greatest wish that these curtains are hanging in the Smithsonian. And now that we have a Museum of African American History, I'm just putting it out there in the universe that this African American wants a piece of her history hanging on those walls, because I'm just so proud of like where my mind went. I'd always made things on a small scale, and this was the biggest thing I had made at that time. And it just let me know that it's okay to be as big as I am. And this was close to 10 years ago. So I'm very proud of these. And even going up in the exhibit, it was just like, it changes the room. Fabric changes the room. It changes the vibration of a space when you can look at the colors and the prints and the designs and know the stories. It's just so much joy and happiness and history in this piece. And I took it a step further. So I kept the religious piece in its, state as far as the order is supposed to be in. But I cut off a little bit of the bottom, and I traded it with the bottom of this to give it a little more flair. So it wasn't just a straight piece. It had a bit more design, something more interesting to look at. And even the loops, which was this wax fabric here, I did a 3-strand braid on the loops, and then I stitched them to the top of the fabric. So it was spring break, I was by myself in a new city, and I felt like I wanted to give my place some style and grace, in the words of Biggie, and that's what happened. So all the ladies in the place with style and grace allow me to introduce my curtains to the place. Look, y'all didn't know I was a rapper too. I'm a stick to poetry. Oh wow, this piece here, okay. So we're almost at the end, y'all. We're circling around. We've hit the curve, that bell curve, and we're coming back to where we hit this sweet spot. This piece right here is very special to me. I have it open, but traditionally, when there is a little more weight to hang it, it's closed. It's called window shopping. And this was the first piece that I stitched coming back from Ghana. It took me 83 hours to stitch and paint this by hand. And I just want to show you the back, because when I lived in Ghana, 3 days after my 35th birthday, which my birthday is coming up in August. I'll be 37, I can't believe it. But 3 days after my birthday, I had two friends come and visit me, Latrice Gray and Ferronda Brasfield. So shout out to you ladies for coming all the way to Ghana to help me be less homesick and visit the country. We went to the Cape Coast Slave Castle, and as a part of the exhibition, they have a space where there's, relics, chains, all different type of things, like a museum gallery space before you can take the walking tour. And there was a room that had wood on the floor, wood on the walls, wood on the ceiling to represent a slave ship, like the belly of a ship. And you had to walk through this room to get to the other side of the museum exhibit. And it made me nauseous to think about walking through this room because it felt very enclosed. I mean, just even stepping my foot in, like I wasn't even in the room, and I just felt like, oh, I don't want to do this. So I stood in the frame for quite a bit. And once I walked through the room, and I'm talking about rush, it's like when you have a part on a scary movie you don't want to see, you close your eyes. I just zipped through. It smelled, there were old ropes that had must, and it was just, I had a very visceral reaction to this room of what it would be like to be an African at the bottom of a boat. And that's what it was designed. And on the other side of this room was a huge banner that said auction today at 2:00. So on the back of this piece, since no one's gonna be able to pick it up, I mimicked that here, if you can see it. And I used the leathering and the vinyl and the studs to give it a sense of opulence, but juxtaposed to a person being sold next to cotton or wool or millet or something of the sort. And then I would have the curtain closed. And before, coronavirus, I had this in an exhibition in a garden, and the curtain was closed, where I reimagined this idea of mammy, of a Black woman being a wet nurse, being salacious in her sexual nature, being a bed wench, being fat and unattractive and ugly and undesirable, to making her shapely and beautiful and regal like we are, like we were sought out for, but told that we were less than. So I reimagined Mammy here. This batik is from Ghana. It was hand dyed in Ghana. And then again, you see the gingham come back in the work because it's synonymous in my mind with the South and my Southern heritage. Gave a little bustier action here because I wanted her to be snatched. Like, she's our mother. She is the mother of us all. And then reimagining this idea that a Black woman is angelic because she birthed us. She's the first woman on earth. Could be debatable in some circles, but as far as where they're finding bones, they're digging them up in Africa, and I was there, and I can guarantee there is nothing grotesque about a Black woman. Everything, every shade, every curve on her body, every inch of her soul is beautiful. So I wanted this to be apparent in the piece. And then inviting people, when there was a time where we could touch and interact, to open the curtain and see what was behind. And what you see are Negroes for sale. And this sign is a reproduction of a posting that was in Arkansas in Hempstead County of young Black boys and men for sale, anywhere between 12 and 43, I believe. And then I took this same concept of being from Africa with the batik and coming to America in the American South in the cotton fields. You know, I gave him some overalls, I gave her a dress, and then this bill of sale where this man, who they said he was about 23, they didn't even know, there weren't even any good records for Black people, your birth, your death, anything. They didn't keep records unless it was a bill of sale. That he was sold for $800. That's my rent. To think that a person could be purchased for the amount of rent you pay every month. So this piece is very special to me because I had this experience in the slave castle. I grew up in the American South. I felt so free in Ghana, and I came back to this place where I wanted to address both of those experiences, being able to live in my place of origin and being able to exist in the place where I'm from. So this is window shopping, and it's just a very, very special piece. I have 3 more pieces, well, 3 in a possible if you play spades. I got 3 in a possible. This piece here is called Working on Myself. It's a jean jacket that my friend, I have to give a shout out to, Jason Floyd. He was doing some personal styling and he found this jacket for me. Obviously it didn't look like this when he first bought it, but he said everybody needs a classic jean jacket in their wardrobe. And so I started to reimagine this jacket. This right here is batik. I love the dyeing process of batik because it's like natural dyes, turmeric, whatever powders, whatever root from the earth. And then you band it and then it makes certain designs. So whatever is banded, it just gets left out and then you get, you know, the striations in the fabric and in the dyeing. This is my Park Service badge right here. I made them do it over to include my C. My name is Crystal C. Mercer. The C is not silent. If I send you something with my C in it, that's how it's supposed to look. So National Park Service, thank you for getting it right. But on the back here of Working on Myself is literally me working on myself. It's a self-portrait that I started on, and all of this whip stitching, this is just tedious work. Like a single stitch, and these are thousands of stitches right here. I stitched it down with a straight stitch and then I went back through. I don't mind imperfections. And the afro creeps over the shoulder and into the neck and then all the way around. I used this print here for my skin. It's called Zanzibar when I found it because it looked like the bottom of a slave ship. And so I liked this against my skin, being descendant of royalty, being descendants of people who pick cotton, being in the South. It just all made sense to me to add that. I threaded my eyebrows, not the traditional way, with actual thread. And I found these buttons that were hand painted in India I loved. And then I'm still working on it. So this is a phrase here from DJ Sparrow about not looking behind and looking forward on life. And DJ Sparrow at the time, her name is Dahlia, she was 9 or 10, I think she's 13 now. So you just never know where inspiration is gonna come and who's gonna inspire you. But I love this jacket. I still wear it sometimes, but mostly it lives on this mannequin, and the pin collection grows ever so as the years go by. But this is very special. All the Little Rock stuff, you know, Lob Lolly, got Hope on there. These buttons are from Ghana. My friend Desiree gave me those. Moxie. My friend Tondi gave me this pin from Florida. This is Ghana Base Camp, Surf Ghana. This is part of their skate tour. President Clinton graduated from the Clinton School. I emceed the Women's March for Arkansas. So even in the buttons, there's like all of this history and telling the story of who I am. So we have 2 more in a possible. This piece was given to me by my friend Berta Davenport Boer, who is an awesome creative professional. She works with fabric. She is an awesome mom, wife, actress. She's just everything. And this is a piece that her mom got from Ghana when she went some 20 years ago. And this is mother cloth. So like the same way we saw in the jacket, it's woven and then it's dyed and then it's stitched together. Just a little whip stitching together. So these slits right here, when Berta gave this to me, it hung on the wall and they had a pole in the bottom just to keep it weighted. So they released this stitch here. You just, get a seam ripper and release that to open it up just a little bit. But this was a piece I acquired, but it was too beautiful not to include in the show because I think it just speaks to the beauty, the process, the culture of what I experienced in Ghana, knowing that her mom had went there some 20 years before and she was passing this cloth on to me. So I wanted to continue to tell her mom's story of her travel, the exchange of the cloth, and then me being so in love with fabrics that I get to preserve it in this way. And then the last stitched piece, before we get to the possible, which is so possible, is my quilt leftover. This took 208 hours to stitch. And it's based on a book that Kofi Seterji, again from the New Bouquet Foundation, gave me to look at, and it was about African symbols in African American quilting. And I was like, oh, this is right up my alley. I'm gonna make a quilt. I'm creative. It was so hard. So what I picked from the book, I thought I could do. And then first, I didn't really see it clearly in my mind. And then it came to me, I pinned things down and I got to stitching. So this quilt is based off of a Congolese symbol called a cosmogram. And it's just the circle of life. Usually it's represented in a diamond shape or a circle, and it's, birth, life, death, afterlife, and going in that round, cyclical. So when I made this, you'll see that all of these were once half together, cosmograms, the huge cosmogram in the center, and even this backing fabric that has all of these symbols here. And then these here are the diamonds. So look at what I did, y'all. I hope you're ready for this, to map this out. So when you fold the quilt this way, cosmogram, 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 cosmogram. When you fold the quilt in the opposite direction, cosmogram, cosmogram, cosmogram. Boom! So it took a lot of figuring to figure this out. And then the back is just plain to give it something. But this became, I just wanted to try my hand, and it's not as big as a bed sheet, but I wanted to try my hand at making a quilt. And this is what manifested. And this became my travel blanket when I left Ghana. And I actually met a woman who we sat together at the airport before we took separate flights, because international ports go different places. And she was like, can I hold this? I said, sure. And she took a picture with it, and it made her so happy just to touch it. Like, she felt the hours, she felt the life, she felt the symbolism. And this is all from wax fabric and cotton, and literally leftovers, like how we were parceled throughout the known world in the diaspora, that we took what we had, we took what was left over, and we made something beautiful out of it, be it a quilt, be it our life, be it a particular situation. And so this quilt to me really means a lot. And I always think about my Uncle Kirk, who has passed on, bless his soul. I was in a play at the Weekend Theater, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and there is a scene where they're talking about, you gotta put the nuts in the stew, and like this African tradition. And it's like all of the leftover parts, like how we made this stew. We made gumbo, we made jollof, we made jambalaya, we made all these dishes. And my Uncle Kirk said, shit, they ain't nothing but some goulash. And he used to make Christmas gumbo after midnight mass. And it just made me, every time I think of shit, they ain't nothing but some goulash, because of all of the leftover parts and how we became who we were in this country is like stitched into this quilt. So this quilt is very African, very Southern, very Uncle Kirk, very goulash. And then the last part of the exhibit, which has to be, I think, a lot of work. I have to thank J. Cole, who is like the editor film extraordinaire for helping me see my vision, but it is my short film, Black Glow Matters. I filmed all of the footage with the exception of a beach moment from my friend Kelly, who passed away. But I filmed all of the footage while I lived in Ghana and decided to use it as the backdrop for my EP with the same name, Black Glow Matters, that has my poetry and songs that I recorded with Edwin. And so it's just scrolling on the wall. And of course, when I'm not talking and it's just the exhibit space, you'll hear the actual poetry EP. So the exhibit is scored by me, it's hand stitched by me, and there was my 7-month experience wrapped into this 23 minutes. And you can find it on YouTube, you can find it on my website at crystalcmercer.com, and definitely when you come, and I hope you do, at least see the exhibit or watch this video and share it with your friends. You can see it at UCA downtown, just scrolling on the wall, and you can get your entire life. So the one thing that I want to leave you with before we wrap this video up is that I'm just very proud of the work. I'm very proud of myself, and I just want to encourage you, whatever your dream is, whatever your goals are, whatever your talent is, wherever your creativity lies, to really nurture that part of yourself and watch yourself grow and blossom and be and become, because so many wonderful things can happen. And I feel like that's what threading through is, that I'm not just stitching these pieces together, that I'm mending generational pain. I'm bringing cures. I'm telling the story of my lineage, people who are so drawn and tied to their culture, be whatever culture. People know what it feels like to love something. And I love what I do. I love Black people. I love fabric. I love my family. I love my nieces. I love my work. And I just want you to feel all of that love in this video and when you enter this space. Threading Through Pan African Fabrics and the Stories They Tell will be at UCA downtown. It's 1105 Oak Street in Conway, Arkansas, opening August 3rd through August 31st, my birthday month. What's up, Leos? And I hope you check it out. Watch this video, share it with your friends, and follow me. Peace.
He thought I was magic, that big brown eyes and big yellow thighs could do anything, that his legs between my knees made him king, and the arch in my back made me queen. All hail to the queen. She smells like Egypt and wet clay. She looks like yams baked in midday, all orange and golden.
Oh my God. Okay, let's just wait on them, because if they're not anchored to that, they have to stand. Okay. But it's good the legs wrong. We'll just put them here. Okay. Yeah. Woo. I just want to put this up first so I can see it, and then. Okay. Yeah, but they find this all to the good. I need to see how tall I am.
He thought I was magic, that curly hair and lace underwear could do anything, that his mouth on my black pyramid made him king, and my ankles on his ears made me queen. All hail to the queen. Her magic tastes like cabbage and turnip bottom stewing in a
This part is going on here. The black part goes to the wall. Red liner to the hook, black to the wall. But it's on the hook. So what is it talking about to ensure the adhesive hole slide hook up and off? Press firmly for 30 seconds. Okay, we're gonna come back to this. I'm already stressed out. I don't even know what the hell this means. Okay. It's just too much. All right. It's a lot. It's a lot, but once I figure out this projector, I think it's gonna be good. I got the mannequins up. I got like the display things up. I see the tape. I'm gonna have to address this tape up top. And yeah, and then just hanging the other pieces. So we about halfway there. And then I'm gonna do my artist talk. We got down here like a little after 1. So we were behind just a little bit. Yeah. But we getting back on track. Quincy bought the wrong command hook, so he's going to the store to find the right one so I can hang the curtain, and that should be like the most of it. That's like the biggest part. The rest I feel like would be easier. Yes. It's like giving birth, girl. I need an epidural. But that's not available for artists installing shows, so I'm just gonna do this naturally.